All right, I think we are now live again on Thursday night, Conversations with Commodores. I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for sticking around and joining us a little bit later, but Bruno's been working and we wanted him to get finished with his work for this evening so he'd have some time with us. I want to welcome Bruno Reagan to our Commodores, Conversations with Commodores. Good evening, Bruno. Good to see you, bud.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I've been wanting to chat with you for a while, and I'm finally glad that we've gotten to the day where we can spend a little bit of time catching up. And you are one of the younger Commodores who I've had the pleasure of speaking with, and we've covered a bunch of the old guys, you know, my age and even older, guys who played, frankly, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. But now we're getting into the 2000s and then your decade. So I appreciate you making some time for us. The last time we saw you in a Vanderbilt uniform, you had played about 40 consecutive games anchoring that line. Man, I wish you were there back in the day when I was playing under center. But tell us before we start with your journey from way back in the day, tell us what's going on with you now, because I know before the league folded or shut down, I don't know if it's permanent, bankruptcy, whatever it may be, you're with the St. Louis Battlehawks. So take us to there and then come forward to what's going on with you actually right now.
Yeah. So after St. Louis, I mean, I played well enough. I knew I might have a shot at the NFL. I had two teams, expressed interest, and I was optimistic, but I was also realistic in terms of, we just had our whole season canceled. No one knows what anything's going to look like in the next coming months. And sure enough, we get here and, we can't fly out for workouts. There's not much, we can do. So the NFL's taken their known commodities, and I sort of knew in the back of my mind, I was like, it's probably not going to pan out for me. But I kept training, kept staying in peak physical condition, and it was actually today, I made a post and I was just like, it doesn't look like anything's going to really come out of it. Whether or not the XFL is going to come out of bankruptcy, if it does come out, I'll obviously probably play again. But I'm not going to hinge the next year or so of my life on it. So I've started. So this past week, I just started training my martial arts full time again, and running my club. And I'm looking for some full time employment opportunities. But I'm in a position where I don't need to rush into anything. So I'm just kind of taking care of the things I need to take care of, training hard, keeping my mind off all the stuff that's going on right now.
And there is so much stuff going on that none of us have ever dealt with this before. We don't know where to spend our mental energy each day, but it sounds like you've made a plan and you're about to execute on it. And maybe you've already put that into place, but where are you training? Where are you living these days? What city are you in?
So I live in Clarksville. I live back home, and I plan on probably living in Clarksville for a good while, because that's where my judo club is, and that's where I probably spend the most time. I own my own martial arts club. We do more than judo, but judo's always been my main thing, and that's where I focus most of my energy. So I'm usually there, but I'm always going to be an athlete. I'm in my athletic prime, so I'm going to constantly look to push myself. So I train at Nashville MMA on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday I can make it out. I try to go to Guardian MMA in Murfreesboro. I also, for my football training, I was training at 615 Sports Training in Mount Juliet. And I still really love it there, but I've kind of shifted away from there for now. If we ever get to a point where there's an actual competition again, I'll probably start a 6 to 8 week cycle training back there, like really intensive cardio and stuff, just to keep in shape. But other than that, I'm just focusing on the actual arts that I'm training right now. So those are like the four main places I typically spend my time at.
So what you're saying is you lay around the couch a lot, just watching TikTok and playing video games all day long. That sounds like you.
I do find time for it. I mean, I'm still a kid. I'm still a kid. So I do find time for it, believe it or not. But yeah, so I'll give you through today. So today I wake up and I drive to Nashville, and it's 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock's our gi workout. So I do our gi workout. Then I drive home, throw my gi in the wash, and I either take a nap or I play video games for like 2 hours, and I pick it back up. I get out and I go do no gi and gi in the afternoons. So that's kind of what my Thursday looks like. So there is still time to relax and stuff. But I really love what I do. Like I love combatives. I love pushing myself. I love that whole atmosphere. So it's really not like an obligation to me. Like that's what I enjoy doing. So
it's not a job, it's a
yeah.
profession. It's something like you just said, at Vanderbilt, or when you go to college, that I've always heard that those 4 years or 5 years that you may be on campus, that's preparing you for the next 40 to 50 years. But it sounds like you've got the energy, the drive, the desire to keep doing what you're doing. And I know that judo has been part of your life probably since you were able to be competitive. I did read, or I learned that as a 15-year-old, you were top 10 in the world. And I want to go back to there. Actually, I want to go back even further because I know both of your parents were athletes in their prime and are probably still athletic right now. Your mom was a big time athlete at Austin Peay. So let's start with her. Tell us a little bit about her background and what you gained, you think, from her athleticism that you were able to use for yourself.
Yeah, my mom was born and raised in Bolivia. She moved to the States. She moved to Miami, and when she was in high school, she picked up volleyball, and she did okay. She did really well with it. She was always a great student, kind of deal. She's I have no idea how to other way to describe her. She's kind of an angel. She's a saint. She just does everything right. So she does everything right. She goes to JUCO, I think at Miami-Dade Junior College, goes and then gets a scholarship to Austin Peay. And I mean, she becomes one of the top Austin Peay volleyball players of all time. I think they just did an all-time ranking of their women's volleyball player, and she made it third. So she's probably the most accomplished athlete in the family right now. She was really, and she's such a sweetheart too. But she has that competitive side to her. I take most of my personality from her than I do my father. But
Very, very cool. How cool was it when she was inducted into the Hall of Fame at Austin Peay?
oh, it's awesome. Like I love that. I love the fact that that's my mom, and I never see her because we're an athlete family. But as of now, she's like, I guess it's just funny how the way things work out when she was at such a high level, and where she when it came time for her kids, you never even hear about it. It's all about us now. So
sure. That's a parent, that's a mom's love doing and promoting her kid and wanting to see the better. Each generation wants the next generation to succeed even better than what they did. So let's move on to your dad, because he's no slouch. I know that he was at MTSU and Austin Peay, and he has a real athletic side to him as well. So share with us a little bit about him.
Yeah, he came up as a football player. He was a football player through and through, and then he got into some freestyle fighting arts like sambo, judo in his day when he was in his prime. He never like played in the NFL or anything, but he definitely had some accomplishments. And he was always a short, stockier, grindier type guy. And I'm this like fluid, athletic type. Me and my dad are night and day different. Like mentally, like he's very headstrong. I'm very calm and collected. But he's always been my coach, and he's always been a father before a coach too, which I've always appreciated. So it's always worked out well with him. Yeah, he's who I opened up the judo club with. He's always who I go to for advice, whether it be athletic or business. So we have a really great relationship that really hasn't changed at all throughout the years.
That's fantastic. I love hearing stories like that. Having supportive parents it makes all the difference. So I know you appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So let's keep going now through. How did you get into judo? I know that you even went to Europe and competed in the world championships. So take us a little bit through that.
Yeah, so I got into judo. My dad works in Parks and Rec, and at the time he was working at a community center in Clarksville. And they had a judo program, and I hated daycare because I was around my parents so much. So I was a kid kicking and screaming when they dropped me off. I was like, please don't leave me.
Now,
so
wait,
my dad was
real quick. Where do you have siblings, and where do you fall in the order of siblings?
I have an older brother and I have a little sister. So I'm the middle.
You are the middle guy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So am I correct in saying your sister's the princess?
Yes.
Your older brother is I'm going to call him the leader. I'm the oldest of three myself, and you're in the middle.
Yeah, my older brother is the troublemaker. For anybody that knows my brother's special needs. You know, he's high functioning autism and globally, he's like globally put back mentally, but he's always been a staple of the family, and that's
Sure.
always been beautiful to see. So
Is he been a sports fan as well? Does he
oh yeah,
go to the
he can't go to the games anymore. He gets freaked out by the big crowds, but he always watches it on TV. Or they go like my parents will drive up and my parents will switch who goes to watch it live and who watches it in the hotel with him. And he like every time, and then we'll all meet up, go out to eat afterwards, and he'll be like, "Bruno, football, woo!" Like, so he's always cheered it on.
Very cool. Very cool. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to get an idea of where you were in the siblings.
Mm-hmm.
But go back to you didn't like daycare, so you had to find something else to do.
Yeah, so I think I just turned 3, and my dad was like, you know what, forget it. I don't think he was allowed to, but he's like, I guess I'll just bring my kid to work and just have him play around. So I'd always play around, and they had judo classes going on at the time. So my dad being a freestyle fighter in his past, he never even like forced me or asked me. Like, I just was like, I want to do that. And lo and behold, it was the first thing I did, and it's probably the last thing I'll end up doing before I die. Like, it's just stuck with me my whole life. I always will go and do other things. Like I'm very passionate about wrestling. I'm huge into jiu-jitsu right now. I was big into football and how competitive it was, but I always find my way back to judo. So it started at 3, and I mean, I never missed a practice, never missed a day. Birthdays, my dad was like, if you're gonna do this, you're going. So I was like, all right. And
Wow. Well, growing up, what sports did you play? I assume judo being all has always been part of your life, but were there any other team sports before you got into football?
Yeah, I did a few. I did all this. I liked doing everything. So I did soccer. I did travel soccer. I was a pretty good goalkeeper. I did baseball. I thought I was pretty good at that. But then when I got to middle school, sixth graders, you get cut a lot and you don't make the team. And the second I got cut, I was like, all right, forget these sports. Like, but one sport you couldn't get cut from was wrestling. So I was like, all right, I'm a wrestler now. Like, I'm not gonna sit out and wait a year. That was the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. Like, sit out so I can let the older kids play. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna do that. And I've always been it's always tough because I've always been a solo sport kind of guy. I love how in combatives it's just you in there in the arena versus the other man. You can't blame or do any, like, it's just you on you. So I've always ventured out into competitive sports, which is an interesting story in itself. Like, I've always ventured out into team sports, but my place is in the ring, in the arena, on the mat, one-on-one. So that's what always attracted me to eventually doing wrestling and judo in high school. But I saw opportunity in football, and that's where that took off at.
When did you hit your growth spurt?
I was probably, so my freshman year of high school, I was 6'1", 205. And then my sophomore year, I was 6'2", 245. Then my junior year, I was like 6'3", 275, 285. And my senior year, I was 6'3", 315. So probably all through high school, but into my sophomore year was when I really started to like fill into my body.
And did you go to Clarksville High School, public high school in town? And and I know that Clarksville is one of the smaller communities, smaller towns in Tennessee. I'm sure the coaches were very pleased at your size, even as a 9th grader. So where did you play? How much did you contribute as a 6'1", 200 and I don't know, I forgot what you said before you really hit your growth spurt?
Well, I didn't play football my freshman year. I started playing my sophomore year, and I only did it because a buddy of mine was like, I told him, like, I'll play football. I'll go to football workouts. I used to think football players were the lowest form of athlete on the planet. I was like, these guys are chumps. They don't do anything. They think they're all hard. I was like, this is ridiculous. But I ended up doing it so my buddy would come wrestle. And, so it was my sophomore year when I went into it. And it all worked out great. I ended up, I started off D lineman first because I thought that's where I'd be. But I mean, it just, with the judo background, offensive lineman really, I knew my future was there.
Well, I was going to say, with your wrestling and judo background, it's so technical that to the average person who doesn't know much about the sport, and admittedly, I don't know any of the technology or the nuances of either of those sports, but I do know that linemen have to be very technical themselves with their footwork and their torsos, their hands. How did some of your training correlate to becoming an offensive lineman?
You really hit the nail on the head. It's what I do in wrestling and judo is at the highest speed. Like you're in a 2-minute round or a 5-minute fight, and you have to follow. If you do not follow your technique step by step perfectly, you are not going to execute, and that's straight up. So the reason why I thought football players were ridiculous was because I was in a setting where it was like all it was snap the ball, put your head down, and act like you're tough and run through somebody. And that's all high school really is. It's hard to teach the real nuanced technical stuff in high school. So when I got to college, I was this super raw guy. But when we started working on the footwork and stuff, it was super easy for me I didn't care about winning practice. That's another, I can go on a rant about that forever. Like I didn't care about winning practice. Oh, I wanted to win, but I'm going to work the things that are going to help us win in the game. So even if the footwork is awkward or the hand positioning is awkward or how he wants me to strike the defensive lineman is awkward, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to lose doing what coach is teaching me. And I never had a problem with that. I'm going to try and win, but I'm not going to try and, I think that's where a lot of young guys make that mistake is they go out there and they just revert to anything they can to win. And they end up looking like they don't get better at all. So that's sort of my soapbox on that issue.
Well, you go from having those 2-minute plus rounds, compare that to like a 20-second football play.
It's easy. It's easy. It's always
a mindset. That's easy work for you. Now, I'm not saying that the guys coming at you were easy whatsoever. You're playing in the SEC. You got some big dudes.
I had some freaks coming at me. Yeah.
Yeah. And some future first and second and third round players who will be in the league for years. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is from a mindset, take us to judo. How much are you exerting over that 2-minute round or 3-minute round versus how much are you exerting in that 20-second or however long of a play?
Yeah. Plays are, your the real nitty gritty work is like 6 to 8 seconds long. So it's not, it's nothing for me to walk into Notre Dame, grab the football. I was playing guard at Notre Dame, or at least get into my stance, just like take a look around, understand my assignment, and just do it. Like I never had an issue, and I'm not perfect. Like there's sometimes where I'm in the huddle and I hear the wrong play, and I think I hear something and I don't. And, I was too prideful to ask the guy, I was like, oh, I heard that right. And I end up going the wrong way. Like, I'm not perfect, but it was always pretty easy once I got the basic concepts of football to, understand. And that's where I think coming in as a new guy, coming in late was actually good for me because I was able to use all the basic fundamentals of how to become good from wrestling and judo and just throw that into football because the skills didn't translate instantly, but I knew how to get better. So when it came down to it, playing center is an extremely stressful job. But after all eyes are on you. You have to do everything. It's ridiculous. But at some point, it was dead to me. Like I was like, 4 down, left, Mike's right there. Look at the safety rotation, identify, linebacker alignment to see if there's pressure, change the protection way, and then, we go. And the XFL, the play clock was 20 seconds, and we got everything. Right. So all super stressful, but at some point it becomes numb to you.
Well, I will tell you and the people who are in our Vanderbilt group are watching this live, they understand to a certain extent, especially the ones who played line, what you're talking about. But when this is seen by non-football players, they have not been taken inside the huddle or on the line for what you're talking about. So when you say that playing center is a very stressful thing, those of us who played, we know that. They all, outside world says, oh, quarterback's the most stressful position. I don't think that. I've always thought that it was center because, and I want you to explain what the center does in layman's terms from when you break the huddle before the play is actually snapped.
So I'll tell you my whole mindset when I had to play center. And I was always training in the XFL to play center in case our center went down. We had a really good center, and it happened in our last game before the season canceled. So I had to walk in there and play center. So I go grab the ball. The play clock's 20 seconds. And by the time we got the play, it was already at 14 seconds. So once I know the play, I know which direction we're going. So I would look at the safeties and see if there's a rotation. And what that means by rotation is if one safety is closer up than the other, that means that if anything, that the pressure is going to come from the closer side safety. So once I see the safety and I understand if they're even, there's no pressure, or one's coming up, I'm like, okay, that's a threat. That takes about a second or two. And you have to do it like that while remembering the play. Next thing, linebackers. Is the linebacker wide? Or is he bossed over the other way? Because if he's bossed over to the left and the safety's to the right, walk down, you know that safety's probably going to come, and the other safety is walking towards the middle of the field. You're like, okay, that's danger. You know, either I have to make a full zone call on our run play so that I can make sure we pick this pressure up, or I have to change the protection that way so that our quarterback, who at the time was Jordan Teamu, that he knows that I have his side. And that takes about 5 to 6 seconds. And then right before, and the whole time Jordan's like, snap the ball. So, and then I get to my guy, and I look at my guy and I'm like, okay, and here's my footwork for this play. It's inside zone. I'm going to take inside zone footwork, snap the ball, go. And that's the simplest way I can explain that.
And that's all in about 12 to 14 seconds.
Yeah, and it's different, for pass plays. It's different for every run play. There's gap schemes for power. There's zone schemes, and zone schemes are different if they're outside zone or inside zone or mid zone. Our pass protections are all different. If it's 5-man, if it's 6-man, 7-man, I have to tell the running backs who they have on top. And that's not even mentioning, you know, so it's so natural to me that I didn't even mention it. I have to identify the linebackers, which one's Mike, Sam, or if there's a nickel, I have to identify the defensive front. All like there's no board, there's nothing, like you just have to know. So that's why centers are you know, a hot commodity. If you can get a smart one that can play, you're gonna have a really good shot.
Well, let's take it back to your senior year in high school. At what point during the high school recruiting process had you narrowed it down or figured out that Vanderbilt was going to be your place where you were going to sign?
I wanted to sign to Vanderbilt or Tennessee. In my head, in my heart, I was like, please, like, let me stay in state. But I committed so I could have I knew I had a really good relationship with the coach at USF, so I committed the summer before just to kind of hold my spot. But in the back of my head, I was like, you know, I wish Vanderbilt or Tennessee would offer me. I like both of those programs. And I went to some tournament, a wrestling tournament, during like 3 weeks before signing day. And a booster for Tennessee saw me wrestle, and he was like, "Are you talking to Tennessee football?" I was like, "No." I visited a bunch, but you know, they put me on the back burner. He called Butch Jones right there, put me on the phone with him, and they asked me to come on an official visit. And then a week later, Vanderbilt calls me in the middle of Spanish class, and they offer me, and I know it's the Vanderbilt O-line coach. So I take a peek at my phone. It's the Vanderbilt O-line coach. My teacher was our wide receiver coach for the football team. So I was like, Coach Allen, I have to take this. And I answer the phone, and I get a scholarship. They want me to come on a visit, and they offer me a scholarship right up front. And I was like, I knew right then I was going to Vanderbilt, and that was 2 weeks before signing day. So I took the visit, and then I committed on the spot, all that, and I was good to go.
Were you familiar with the coaching staff at Vanderbilt at the time?
No, Coach Mason was there for about a week. So they were trying to, I mean, remember when Franklin, you know, really came after his class and they poached a lot of guys. There's no other way to say it. He poached a lot of guys. So they were looking to fill bodies up with guys who, you know, who could maybe do something. And I was able to sneak in there.
And that was your recruiting class, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, well, I had a very similar experience. I came in, now I'm considerably older than you. I came in with the recruiting class of 86. I know that's a long time ago, but Watson Brown was my head coach, and he had just left his prior job at the same time, or just, I think in December of that year, he left to come to Vanderbilt from Rice. And so I too, most of the guys that signed with me also were recruited very late in the game and had to fill a lot of spots. But had you met Coach Mason or the O-line coach before you came and visited school?
Yeah, the O-line coach came and pulled my grades, but so many programs like Stanford, like Arkansas, like so many programs came and pulled my grades. I was like, when Vandy coach came and did it, I was like, whatever. Like, I didn't even think twice about it. And then the next time, that was the first time I met him. He had a 5-minute conversation with me, pulled my grades. I was like, all right, peace out, dude. Like, it was Coach Leitner at the time. I thought I'd never see him again. And the next time he calls me and offers me. So happened just like that.
That's fantastic. Everybody has a different story. So you get to campus, and for those of you who don't know, how many games in a row did you end up starting on the O-line?
40. Started 40 games, but the last 2 of my freshman year, and never left.
I'm wondering, maybe not since Will Wolford in the early 80s has a lineman at Vanderbilt started that many. I don't know if that was kept up, but you may know of Will Wolford, who played many years for the Buffalo Bills and was one of the main linemen back in the early 80s.
Yeah, my guy Justin School would have tied me, or I think he might have. I don't know if he would have tied me or had 2 more, but he had that leg injury and that derailed him. But we started the same amount of games. He just couldn't do it consecutively because, I mean, to avoid the injury bug is a rare thing. What'd you ask?
Particularly, I would say, was he in the same class as you?
I redshirted and he didn't. So we were like in the same graduating class.
Gotcha. And I want to ask you, because the linemen are so close and you guys travel in packs and you just have a bond, the wide receivers hang together, et cetera. You know how that goes. Did you end up teaching any of the linemen any of your background with judo or any of the wrestling? They see what you do. Hey, I want to get some of that. Did that ever transpire? Did that ever come to fruition?
Not at Vanderbilt. At Vanderbilt, I was so focused on trying to get on the field and because it was my first real go at a team sport that I was fully committed to. So there was a lot I had to learn, and there was not much I could teach people. When I got to the XFL, it was every week. The guys were like, dude, you need to teach us, because as sort of like they all sort of heard that I was, a judo jiu-jitsu guy. So they were like, okay, let's test it out. And like before meetings one time in the locker room, they came up and then, they tried to like wrestle or grapple me. And I went through like 5 guys before meetings. And then so they were like, all right, we're going to learn this stuff. But that never really happened at Vanderbilt. I was just trying to, I was so laser focused at the time that I was just, I was crazy. I would go sit down, eat, not talk to anybody. I was just like, how do I get on the field? So there was none of that going on.
Well, I'll tell you, it takes a special focused mentality and God-given ability to combine to be able to play 40 games in a row. I know you're very proud of that, as you should be. It was an accomplishment. Nobody gave that to you. Now, let's go on to the field, onto the games. When do you remember your first game action for Vanderbilt? Do you remember who it was against? Do you remember how you felt breaking huddle for the first time?
Yeah, it was against Austin Peay. Well, I was told my redshirt freshman year I would play the first. I mean, I had a good camp, and I was always getting a little bit better. So I had a good camp, and I was told, before the game, it was like, get ready, you're gonna play. But the game didn't go the way we wanted, so he kept the seniors in, which I understood. And then we ended up losing that game. It was just such a bad loss. And then things just never got better, really. So I got my first action against Austin Peay. And I remember my first play, I went out there, most people would be nervous or whatever. Like, yeah, I get the butterflies and stuff sometimes, but it really ain't. Like, what we do isn't life or death. Like, I go out there and I have fun, man. So it was my first play ever. I was like, dude, I'm a freshman, like stepping out on an SEC field. Like, I was awful when I first got to college, like in football. I was like, this is crazy. I've already shattered a good amount of my goals just stepping out here. So I do everything the coach tells me to. It's just an inside zone play. And me and I think the center at the time was Barrett. We just drive the guy right off the ball. And I think that was my only play because we scored. And then it was like, all right, get out there. Because the guy got hurt or whatever. He's like, all right, Bruno, get out. And then after that play, I had a few more reps at Middle Tennessee. That's where I got my first twist game in the pass protection. I gave that up. But, I started getting more and more reps as the season went. And then it eventually became starting.
But how cool was it that your first your first college game was against your parents' alma mater?
I didn't even think about it.
Oh,
I remember they were like, screw Austin Peay, like whatever, like just go kick go kick their butt and focus on the SEC. Like, you know, they wanted me to just be on another level, which is just, that's just them. So I never even thought about it. Like, oh, I'm playing Austin. This is my parents' school. I was just like, you know, let's kick these guys out of our stadium.
Well, guys, if you're just joining us or watching this later on, I'm talking with Bruno Reagan, who has been an O-lineman for Vanderbilt for many years. If you've watched the program in the last 4 or 5 years, he was there on that line for 40 straight games he started, and we're having a good conversation about just all kind of different things. And we're getting toward the end of our conversation, but I've got a few more things I want to ask you about. And most notably is, who are some of the tougher players or the style of play that made it tougher for you to do whatever job? Now, I know you were all across the line at different times. So what sticks out? What was a tough assignment for you?
When we played Auburn really well at Auburn, Montravius Adams was a big handful. He always had issues. We could tell on film with effort. He knew he was extremely good. He knew he was going to go to the pros. And so it was just a waiting game for him. So it was about taking advantage of those times where he was going to, you know, not try, basically.
Well, I was going to say, do you think it was a conditioning thing?
It did to come down, because I'm sure he practiced like that. So he probably played. So there were times where he could take advantage of it. But when he wanted to go, he was freakishly strong, very good. And I mean, like, I still have those videos saved on my phone, because when me, like, you know, the way people see us, where nobody's from Vanderbilt. So when I come out to fight. Like, I treat football like a fight. So I come out there. I don't care if I'm like 2 inches taller. I got short arms. People think I suck, whatever. So I go out there and I'm fighting this guy. So he starts turning it up and he hits me with a good move. And I'm like, it's on. So there's all these like videos of us we're scrapping on the pass pros and stuff. And he was amazing. So he's one of the guys I really like playing against. Caleb Brantley from Florida had the smoothest pass rush out of anybody. Those are two guys that were extremely good. Kinlaw from South Carolina had a really good game my senior year against us. You know, I always thought I played him really well, but I wish I could go back and watch just to see again. He was a freak too.
These are no slouches. These are Sunday players who.
I think they all play in the NFL. Yeah.
You know, I've always heard, you know, we're in the SEC country, that the SEC is the third division of the NFL, but there's so many guys who go in the draft every year. And well, take us to one of your more memorable fun games or events, or it could be a practice, it could be a pancake block, whatever it is. I want to know what makes you smile when you think about it.
So I have two, and one was probably the most formative moment in my life. It was my sophomore year, and we just got a new O-line coach. And, you know, I kept getting better and better in my head, but I got benched. Nobody knows that. My fall camp, we went into fall camp and they put me on second team. And I really, like, for a guy like me, I mean, some people, like, they'll get upset or whatever. It hit me hard. Like, because I thought I was doing everything right. So it came down to this moment where we hit the next practice. I was like, am I going to, you know, shy away from this, or am I going to, I don't know a nice way to say, am I going to just get up and just fight everybody? So, and I mean, I was scratching and clawing, trying to earn that spot back. And there was one time where the twos always practice against the ones. So I pulled on a power play, and I mean, it was on a goal line at the end of practice, and I just take the guy out and I get up. I was just so in my zone. I just threw my helmet off. I started screaming explicit things. Like, I wanted it so bad. And I think that, like, the O-line coach ran out to me just laughing. He was like, this kid is out of his mind. And I think that, like, choosing to fight rather than back, because I so much wanted to just feel sorry for myself. Like, and I did for a bit. Like, I just wanted to. But looking back and just seeing the way, like when I think of what I want to be, like, I think to that kid every time, like that kid that he just wants to go no matter what and just wants to prove everybody wrong. And the other is, without a doubt, that same year beating Tennessee when it was 2016 Tennessee when they were playing us and they were on their way to the Sugar Bowl. I was losing my absolute mind that game. They come out, they're hot. It's like 21 or 24-7. And we go into halftime and we're just like, no, like, this is not like, and we were about to make a bowl game. It was going to be Coach Mason's first bowl game, and we really wanted that for him. And we were like, no, man, this is not. And we come out, and I mean, we just fight tooth and nail. Like that. That's when the whole team turned into fighters. We were losing our minds. We would score and we were just going crazy. The crowd was going crazy. I played at a lot of places. Auburn crazy, Florida crazy, Notre Dame crazy. Vanderbilt that night on 2016 against Tennessee was I'll always look back at that moment and smile. It was awesome.
Oh, very, very cool. I know that when you have players like Shermer and a whole bunch of other Sunday guys in the backfield and on the field with you, take us, and we're getting close to the end, Bruno, and I appreciate your time. Take us into the huddle with Shermer. How cool, calm, collected. What's that like?
He was the staple of our teams, and it's unreal that we can only win 6 games with him. I mean, man, like he is going to be undervalued, underappreciated. He was the leader. He was the players' leader. You know, we could have like 8 captains. He was the captain. He always led by example, and he was always an extremely smart guy. So whereas in the XFL, I had to do everything at center, he took a lot of the load at quarterback, so that I just could go out there and fight people, which I greatly appreciated. He was always calm, cool, and collected, knew everything. Like he was the hardest worker in the room. So looking back and playing with guys like Shermer, guys like Justin, like just absolutely not just talented guys, but extremely driven guys. Like,
well,
being a part of that was awesome.
With Shermer being the son of a coach, you know, and playing quarterback, it just lends itself to him being a leader on the field. I'm sure he was. I don't know him personally, but I'm sure he was on and off the field. And it didn't hurt for you protecting him and protecting and making holes for a whole bunch of really talented backs who are either in the pros or on their way to the pros now.
Yeah, I mean, the list goes on. Ralph Webb, Jamari Rakefield, Keyshawn Vaughn, Josh Croft, just tons of big talent that would come out. Kari Blasingame, they would all come out and give the same amount of energy, put the same amount of effort into pass pro as we did. So we were like, all right, when we got to run, we got to get these guys going in the end zone. So we had a really, really, really close and good group. We were all very, very close and just wanted to see each other succeed. So when you were one of the 11 out there, I mean, we were all there ready to fight for one another.
What let's go off the field for 5 minutes before we conclude. What did you study? What was your focus of education at Vanderbilt?
I was a communications major, and where I wanted to go was sort of at first I thought I wanted to go into, you know, maybe a political sphere of work, but so I was one class away from my political science minor in American politics, and then I was like, this isn't me. And I just focused solely on communications in a future effort to maybe work on a journalism style career path or a production or a broadcasting style thing. So when I do eventually transition to a career standpoint, that's some of the things I do. So I've done a few, you know, test podcast episodes myself. I've written a little bit for Vandy Sports, actually, with Chris Lee. He's been a good mentor to me on my writing.
Oh, and Chris is going to be a guest in a few weeks on this show.
Yeah, right. Chris is one of my favorite Vandy guys ever. He's an amazing guy, high integrity guy, just a good guy. So working under him for you know, the 4 or 5 or 6 stories I did was awesome. And
very good. I had Matt Snyder on the show from the Vanderbilt Hustler a few months ago. You're younger than you. Where's some of your favorite on and off campus hangout spots and places to get food?
The best place in Nashville is Sushi 88. It's on Bell Court. It's just north of Blair School. It is the best sushi place in the city, and I will fight anybody over that opinion. You can get $20 all you can eat. It comes out fast. It's very high quality. You can see how passionate I am about this. I love Sushi 88. I've tried, me and my offensive line buddies tried every single sushi place in Nashville. Samurai, Nama, Sushi Train. We were all over the place, and Sushi 88 is by far my favorite spot. So,
and when all of y'all are walking into Sushi 88, the owners just, oh boy.
I mean, I feel like the owners are just like another day at the job, but it's the other people that are the issue. The other people are like, you know, it's the other customers that are like,
yeah.
We had people to come take pictures with of our table. They're just like, can I take a picture of what you guys are doing? We're like, sure.
Just the sheer volume, I'm sure, was impressive.
Yeah, it's always a fun time.
Well, Bruno, I sure appreciate you taking some time and talking with me. It's been a lot of fun for me getting to know you a little bit and hearing how passionate you are about so many different things. So thank you, bud, for spending some time tonight.
No problem.
Well, I certainly wish you the best. I hope that the Battle Hawks or whatever professional football you're able to get back into, we want to see you back on the field. And I know you do, but otherwise I know that wherever you end up doing, you're going to be a success. That passion is just, it's flowing. I can feel it.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, guys, this will conclude another conversation with Commodores. Bruno Reagan was my guest tonight, as we've been doing all during the pandemic for the last almost 4 months now. Gosh, I've done over 22, 23 of these. We try to bring every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Central, and we're going to keep doing these until we stop. So thank you again. You guys have a good evening. Be safe. Wear your mask, please. Use common sense. Take care. Y'all. Oh, and have a happy 4th. Safe 4th. Bye-bye.